90% of blind people never learn Braille, and it's not because they don't want to, but because they can't afford to. A basic Braille display costs $2,000, and high-end models run up to $15,000. That's more than most used cars. So right now, millions of people who could be reading independently are instead asking strangers for help with restaurant menus, street signs, or their mail. My name is Advait, and I think there's a better way. There are 36 million blind people in the world. Only 3.6 million of them use Braille, which means we're missing about 32 million people who could benefit from it. The barrier is almost entirely cost. These devices are manufactured in tiny batches using technology from the 1980s, which drives prices through the roof. A single Braille textbook costs $400 to produce. Most people end up using audio screen readers instead, which work fine if you just want to hear something read aloud, but if you actually want to learn to read, to understand spelling and punctuation and proper literacy, audio doesn't cut it. So we've accidentally created this system where the ability to read is locked behind a $2,000 paywall. Traditional Braille displays are high quality and well built, but they're expensive, heavy, and you can only read content that's been preloaded onto them. Basically, you're paying thousands of dollars to read whatever the manufacturer decided to include. Then there are Braille production services that can convert any book you want, but the process takes weeks. It costs hundreds of dollars per book. Audio screen readers solve the cost problem since they're relatively cheap, but they completely skip the Braille problem. The gap is obvious. Nobody is offering affordable access to any text in Braille format. You either spend thousands of dollars or you give up on the idea of reading Braille altogether. That gap is where BrailleStream lives. BrailleStream is a portable device that costs $200. You point it at any printed text and it converts that text to Braille instantly. The camera uses OCR to recognize what the text says. AI then translates that to Braille, and you can read it on a refreshable display. The whole process takes just a couple of seconds. We can hit that $200 price point because all of these technologies already exist, and they're relatively cheap. With the Raspberry Pi processor, a decent camera module, Braille cells, and battery and housing, when you add it all up, manufacturing cost is around $130. Retail at $200 gives us room to actually build a sustainable business. Compare that to current Braille displays, and you're looking at a 90% cost reduction. But the real advantage isn't just price. With BrailleStream, you're not limited to whatever content came preloaded. You can read anything. Looking through the ERRC framework, we're eliminating the need for pre-produced Braille materials entirely, along with the expensive specialized hardware that currently dominates the market. We're reducing costs by 90% compared to existing solutions, and we're shrinking the form factor down to something pocket portable. We're raising the level of independence that blind people can achieve, and we're expanding access from a handful of pre-selected texts to literally any printed text in the world. And we're creating something that doesn't currently exist, which is real-time Braille translation. In terms of target market, we're focused on the 3 tiers of non-customers. The first tier is people who currently use expensive Braille displays, but want something more portable and more versatile. The second tier is the 32 million blind people who never learned Braille because they couldn't afford the equipment. And the third tier includes people with partial vision or late onset blindness who could benefit from Braille but can't justify spending that much money on a reading device. That's 36 million people, representing a massive blue ocean of unmet demand. BrailleStream doesn't try to compete with traditional Braille displays on their terms. We're making them obsolete for everyday reading. Instead of expensive legacy technology, we use modern components that are mass-produced and affordable. Instead of preloaded content, we offer universal text access. Instead of targeting the small percentage of people who can afford luxury devices, we're serving the 32 million people who have been completely ignored. Blind people are forced to depend on others to navigate everyday situations. BrailleStream changes that equation completely. 36 million people deserve the dignity and independence that comes from being able to read on their own terms. Not just a small percentage who can afford it, but everyone. That is the blue ocean that we are creating.